record how to make some bread. So, first thing we gotta do is get the scale down to 0 with our ball on it. And we're going to add 186 grams of starter. Starter really easy to make yourself. Just look up a quick video on it. It's good to just always have this going in your fridge. Then you can bread whatever you want. Alright, 176, that's probably 186. Alright. Pour it when you're done with the starter. To wipe off the edge and cover it. So I'm going to feed this before I put it back in the fridge. You do want to cover it, you don't want other bacteria starting to grow in there. Then you need a moldy starter. I'm going to add water and get up to 600 grams total. Then mix it. Once you have that mixed up, just tear your scale down. And you add 453 grams of flour, which you can do right in this bowl. Thankfully, we have a second bag. A little too much there, so actually I want to take some out. Which you can just do with a spoon. As long as you don't go too deep to the liquid, it's fine. 80, take about 10 grams off a scoop here, 70. And 456. Alright. I'm going to mix this up. This part you don't need the scale anymore. Really want to mix it up as fast as you can to get all the liquid mixed into the dough here. It's not going to seem like the right consistency of bread dough yet. When we're done, it will. Push it all into the middle here to make a ball. Then we're going to go ahead and cover it in plastic wrap. Sometimes I use 2 pieces, which I'm going to end up doing here, so you can cover the whole thing pretty well. We should get all the dough covered. Then I'm going to cover it with this clean dish towel just over the top, hold any extra moisture in, and we'll come back in 30 minutes to do some stretching. Alright, we are now ready for the first stretching. Now this is way easier than it sounds, but first you have to uncover the bread. Well, the dough. You want to do it in a way that you don't waste all the plastic wrap if possible, but have one nearby if we need it. Let's put that sticky side up on the counter here. And then we have to moisten our hands. You want to use room temperature water if possible. And when your hands are wet, then you get to do the stretching. So, come into the dough here, and it's going to be a little liquidy at first, and that's okay. So you really want to get under about the middle as you can. Stretch it up. And rotate all the way around. Go from the other direction now. Stretch it up. It's okay that it's kind of a little pulley apart here. The next stretching will be much more together. So you rotate it 90 degrees, get under here. Stretch it up as much as you can there. And go over it. So you want to fold it all the way over it essentially. And we go from the fourth direction. This pulls everything away from the bowl, gives your bread that nice bready taste. We're just kind of pushing a little bit. Then before you do anything else, you want to wash your hands from it. Now once your hands are dry, we're going to go ahead and cover that up. The plastic wrap should push right back into place where it was, so that it's pretty close to sealed all the way around. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you don't really want air getting in there. It'll dry your bread out and give you some crusty spots that you have to pick off before you bake it. If it happens, not the end of the world. Then you cover it with a towel and you wait another 30 minutes. All right, it's time for the second stretch. Let's uncover it, see how it's looking. You can see here now it's going to start looking and feeling a lot more like bread dough. We're going to do one more stretch. Peel it slowly so we don't lose too much to the covering here. Stretch that out a little bit so we can still use it next time. Get our hands wet again with a room temperature water. And then let's go ahead and stretch this out. So we'll start from the top. Really get under there. Try and get to the middle as much as you can. Pull it up. See, that's a lot stretchier. It's still kind of liquidy. But you will see that change as it keeps fermenting and rising. It's also gotten bigger since the last time you stretched it here. Give it a big stretch. Awesome, get that back down there. Now let's get under here for this third stretch. Third and fourth stretches usually get a lot. You want to go wide a little bit if you can, so it really covers kind of the rest of the dough like a blanket here. Let's get the fourth stretch in. So stretchy. All right. And before we can cover it back up, kind of wash your hands again. And you'll notice after stretching now it's really starting to look like bread dough. But it's still got to go for one more stretch. And then we're going to end up leaving it to sit for about 2.5 hours or so until it's doubled in size from when we started. Let's see if we can use this cover here. Yeah. After the next stretch, we'll probably have to put new plastic wrap on it, but that's fine. You do want to make sure you're not just having exposed dough there because it will dry out. And then we just loosen bread. So we got a loose covering here, we're not going to pack it down tight. And we'll go ahead and cover it with this towel again. And see you in a half hour. Alright, it is time for the third bread stretching. You also noticed I buffed the starter out this whole time. I fed it so that it's been sitting out now for 90 minutes. About another 30 and I'll put it in the fridge until the next time we use it. Let's peel this off. And we're going to throw this out and do new plastic for the next one. Usually happens about this time. Get our hands wet, just a nice room temperature water. So this keeps the dough from sticking to our hands. Alright, let's see how stretchy this dough is now. Really get under here. Yeah, look at that stretch. I'll come at it from that opposite direction again. Really use our fingers to scoop under it as much as possible. Gather up all that dough. Stretch. You notice it starts to all pick up now. It's becoming more viscous. It's a good thing. Let's get under this other end here. Give it a big stretch. Pull it a little wide. Let's get under this last side here. Big stretch. We gotta wash our hands, get all the skill off. Alright, now that our hands are clean, let's get some clean plastic wrap on this. Keep the piece as big as we can here. So this time the piece stayed flat enough that we can cover it all with one piece. It actually works out a little bit better. Push in this side so it's not over the edge. And go around the edge as much as we can. Cover it with the towel. We're going to sit here and let it do bulk fermentation. So we're going to leave it alone now for anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. We'll check it about 2.5, see if it's grown in size enough. You want it to be about double the starting size. If it's hard for you to eyeball, you could take a small amount of dough out before you do the stretching and put it in a jar, sealed, and then put a piece of tape that's double the height, and then that'll tell you when this is doubled in size, because it'll double about the same time. That being said, we'll come back in a couple hours and then we'll shape the dough. Alright, now that we waited 2.5 hours or so, let's check the size of it. Alright, we can see it's gotten much bigger. Also looks a little puffier, which is a good place to be. It is time for us to see if we could shape this dough. Ooh, this is going to be some sticky bread dough. I don't know if we'll be able to shape this. Let's find out. Save this here, check the consistency. So it is very sticky. Maybe a little too much water on this one, we'll see. Or maybe let it rise too much, but it looks good. Now we're gonna bust out the rice flour. It's really the stuff you want to use for shaping. We're gonna go ahead and make our work area right here. Use plenty of this because it doesn't hurt. So now we're gonna wet our hand. Well, I'm just gonna wash the sticky dough. You know we're about to get sticky. Now we're going to take the dough out of the bowl and put it on the rice flour and see if we can shape this thing. I'm gonna get some flour on our hands, see if it reduces the stickiness for us. Ooh, this stuff is super sticky. We got most of it out, and we're going to put it in a big blob in the middle here. This is not going to shape well, but it'll still end up being a beautiful bread when we're done. So we're going to, similar to how we were stretching it, but we're only going to go halfway across. And then we are going to do each side halfway across. Making like a little packet here. We'll stretch it a little bit as we go. And then we'll do it from the bottom. And the difference and the reason why we're doing it out of the bowl and on the rice flour is for this part right here. So after we get it into the shape where we fold it all four sides in about halfway, we're going to take it, we're going to flip it and put it seam side down back in the bowl. We'll smush the sides in a bit to make it round. And at the end of it, you're just going to have kind of a dough blob. And now we do have to wash our hands before we cover it again. So we're going to cover it with the same piece of plastic wrap that we've been using. So normally I would use the same plastic wrap. Because this plastic wrap is so sticky, we're actually going to grab a new one. And we're actually going to sprinkle a tiny bit of extra rice flour over the top of this just to absorb some of that stickiness. It's not going to hurt or affect the bread much. Now it's covered again with a new piece of plastic wrap. If we can get it without folding the edges in here. Just unfold that spot. Get it way in there this time. We really want to seal it on the edge. We don't want anything to dry out here. Now we're going to take this bowl, cover it with the same dish towel we've been using today. And we're going to stick it in the fridge for about 16 hours or so. So we will check back tomorrow morning and then we'll pick up the next step where we get to bake it. All right, it has now been 16 hours. Let's get this bread in the oven. So the first thing we're going to do is put our Dutch oven in the oven. Make sure that your oven shelves are adjusted so that there's plenty of room here. And we're actually going to go ahead and put it in upside down. and you'll see why we're doing this later in the videos. Make sure that's covered up well. We're going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 450. Now, while this is preheating, we are going to get the dough out of the fridge. We're going to put the dough on the counter here. We'll just put the dough here. We'll let it come up to room temperature a bit, and in a few minutes I'll show you how to prepare it. Alright, now that our oven is almost preheated, we're going to go ahead and start prepping this dough. So, first we're going to open it up, to see what it looks like. Alright, that is a great looking dough. So now we're going to want to get our parchment paper ready. It's important to use a sheet of parchment paper because when we're about to transfer this, we're going to need the parchment paper to get it into the Dutch oven. So I'm going to use a generous amount of white rice flour. I'm going to put this on the parchment paper. This will give it that nice bottom, but also keep from sticking to the parchment paper. This dough is very sticky. We're also going to cover our hands with white rice flour. We do not want the dough sticking to our hands. Then we are going to go ahead and peel the plastic off slowly. We're finally done with the plastic wrap. Take this off. See, the dough is very stretchy and very sticky. And if there's any of this dry, crusty piece that falls into the dough that you're going to be using, just take it out. That does not make the tasty spread. Only one piece of it. I'm actually going to grab a little bit more white rice flour for my hands here. I really don't want to be sticking to this dough. And we're actually going to go ahead and sprinkle some of this on the dough itself because it is extra sticky this time. So I'm going to go around the edges here. Make sure we don't get any of the crusty pieces and just get the nice dough itself. Don't worry about if it maintains its shape here, because you'll see what's going to happen in a second. So we're going to put it rice flour side down, and we're immediately going to start folding it, just like we shaped it last time. So we'll fold it over, stretch it and fold it over. We'll take it from one side here, stretch it out and fold it. We'll rotate it a little more time. Grab from the bottom here, and we're going to stretch it out and fold it over. We're just going to push the sides in a little bit here, make it as round as we can. We're using a round Dutch oven, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And we're actually going to leave it out here for about 20 minutes or so before we do the next step. Alright, it's actually only been about 10-15 minutes here, but it's time for us to do the next step, so we're going to go ahead and get it in here. I'm going to check how sticky. Okay, the top is still a little sticky. I think we're going to rice flour this as well. Here. Just do a gentle pass, see if there's any air bubbles that can get out. If the air bubbles are big enough to get out like that, they will make too big of a pocket for us. I'm just going to take a knife. Any sharp knife will work for this. And we're going to go ahead and just cut a pattern around the top here. I'm going to go ahead and go Just drag it across the top of the bread just to score it. It doesn't take much. I'm going to go ahead and go with the classic shape. I'm actually going to leverage this line that's there from the dough fold. And then we're going to go ahead and go this way. I'm going to go once down the middle at the end here. Also, we're not going over the sides. And then, because the oven still needs to stay preheated for a while until the Dutch oven itself preheats to almost 450, I'm going to go ahead and cover this with plastic wrap one last time. Now, if you do time this better and wait until the oven starts to is preheated before taking the dough out of the fridge, you might not have to cover it with plastic wrap here. That's up to you. So we'll go ahead and cover this. The reason we're covering it here is because the dough will dry out otherwise. Just plastic wrap over it here. And we'll be back in a few when we're ready to put the dough in the oven. Alright, it is now time to get the bread into the oven. I'm going to go ahead and uncover the dough ball. We're going to do it gently here because the shape does matter a little bit. And the plastic may have stuck. Again, I recommend actually just waiting to take the dough out until 20 minutes before the oven's done preheating so you don't have to do this step. And your bread will come out a little bit prettier if you do that. But this should work just fine. You do need to get the dough closer to room temperature instead of going right from fridge to oven, otherwise this won't rise very much. So, go ahead and get this plastic wrap out of here. You're going to want to do this with oven mitts, because this is incredibly hot. And make sure to turn here so you can see the oven for this part. So we're going to go ahead and open the oven up. And we're going to very carefully slide this all the way out. Not enough where it falls. Enough where we can get to this lid. So we're going to put this up here. Now the lid is in the oven. Time does matter here, so we're going to go kind of quick. We're going to get this dough into the lid of our Dutch oven. Alright. And that is perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and get our Dutch oven. Bottom, we're going to use that as the top. We're just going to set it right on top here. It will squish the paper. You don't have to worry about that. And get the top out as even as you can. Slide it back in. And in 20 minutes, we'll do the next step. Alright, it's now been 20 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and get to the next step of cooking this bread. So everything in here is extremely hot, so please be careful. I do like to pull the shelf out some, and then we're just going to carefully uncover the bread here. And we'll put this here. This is very hot, so do not touch it. Put it somewhere where other people can't touch it. And we're going to go ahead and close the oven again, and we're going to cook it for 20-25 minutes. We're going to do 20 because our oven's a little bit hot. In the meantime here, we're going to get our drying rack, or our cooling rack ready, so that as soon as the bread comes out of the oven, we can take it off the lid and put it right on the cooling rack. Sounds good. See you in 20 minutes. Alright, it's actually only been about 18 minutes, but I peeked at the bread using the oven light and it is done. So we're going to take it out here. Notice I've got the cooling rack here ready to go. Turn the oven off. And let's slide this bread out. First thing I'm going to do is take the entire lid out. And you'll notice the top gets stuck. That's kind of okay. So we'll just put that right up here on the stove. Gonna close this oven up. And then we're going to change the parchment paper here. I'll keep the bread on the parchment paper for now, or we'll just move it here onto the cooling rack, and you'll notice there's now a beautiful bread as long as you don't drop it. And we're going to go ahead and let this bread sit for about 45 minutes before you can cut it. If you cut it before, then the inside actually won't finish cooking because it is still cooking right now, even though it's not in the oven. Then we'll slice it up and we'll have a nice warm bread. Alright, it is time to cut the loaf. Let's see how this thing looks. Use a nice serrated knife here so we don't ruin the bread. It's soft, but it's got that crust. That is a nice looking bread. Hope you enjoy it.